What turns a civil rights hero into a racist overnight? What dark secrets could make someone deny everything they fought for? And what sinister truth lies behind the mysterious Room 410? This isn't just another story of racism in healthcare. It's a tale of conspiracy, betrayal, and a nurse who stumbled upon a truth that could cost her everything. Sarah Johnson rushed through the hospital doors at 6 a.m., coffee in hand, mind already racing through her patient list. 15 years of nursing had taught her to expect anything, but nothing could prepare her for today. Sarah! Linda from reception waved frantically. Emergency call from admin. They're transferring a VIP patient. They specifically asked for you. Sarah frowned. In all her years, administration had never requested her by name. Did they say why? Just that she's high profile and needs the best. Your words, not mine. Linda winked. The elevator ride to the administrative floor felt different. The usual morning chatter was replaced by hushed whispers. Director Matthews paced outside his office, phone pressed to his ear. No, Senator. I assure you we're handling this with utmost discretion. Yes, our best nurse. I understand the sensitivity. Sarah's stomach tightened. A senator's involvement. Something wasn't adding up. The emergency room doors burst open at 7:15 a.m. A frail woman in her 70s arrived on a stretcher, her silver hair wild around her face. Her daughter, sharply dressed in a business suit, clutched a designer handbag like a lifeline. Mrs. Eleanor Peterson, the paramedic announced. Severe pneumonia, fever of 103 degrees. Sarah stepped forward. I'm Sarah Johnson, your assigned nurse. The moment Eleanor's eyes landed on Sarah's face, everything changed. The old woman's expression twisted from confusion to pure hatred. Get this black woman away from me, Eleanor shrieked, her voice echoing through the emergency room. I won't have her kind touch me. The daughter's face flushed red. Mom, please. I'm so sorry, nurse. But Sarah barely heard the apology. Her attention caught on something else, a document slipping from Eleanor's bag. The corner of a newspaper clipping, Civil rights lawyer wins landmark case. Sarah blinked. The woman hurling racial slurs was a civil rights lawyer. Mrs. Peterson, Sarah kept her voice steady. Your oxygen levels are dangerously low. We need to act now. Eleanor's eyes darted wildly. You don't understand. They'll find out. They're watching. The daughter, Karen, according to the forms, pulled Sarah aside. Please, she's not normally like this. She spent her whole career fighting discrimination. Sarah nodded, already scanning Eleanor's medical chart. Something caught her eye. These medications, the dosages don't match standard protocols. What do you mean? These combinations. They're unusual. And look at these admission dates. She's been to 3 hospitals in 2 months. Eleanor's voice rose again. They're trying to silence me. Don't let them. Sarah studied the woman's face. Beyond the hatred, she saw fear. Real, bone-deep fear. The phone at the nurse's station rang. Director Matthews again. Nurse Johnson, transfer Mrs. Peterson to the VIP wing immediately. Senator's orders. Sir, she's not stable enough. That's an order, Sarah. Sarah looked at her patient, thrashing against the restraints, spewing hatred one moment and cryptic warnings the next. The woman who once fought for civil rights now embodied everything she had battled against. Eleanor grabbed Sarah's wrist with surprising strength. For a moment, her eyes cleared. They think I don't remember, but I do. Room 410, St. Mary's Hospital. Then the clarity vanished, replaced by that same blind hate. Sarah felt the weight of her phone in her pocket. A quick search would reveal Eleanor Peterson's history. The cases she won, the barriers she broke, but something else nagged at her. Room 4, 10 St. Mary's, Nitten Sudisex. Karen, Hardin Moore Neunt Rom number 500 Atifer? No, but... Karen hesitated. She keeps all her old case files in our attic. Last week, I found her there at midnight, burning papers. She kept saying she had to protect them. The heart monitor beeped faster. Eleanor's oxygen levels were dropping. I need to intubate, Sarah announced. As she prepared the equipment, she noticed something else. Tiny needle marks on Eleanor's arm. too recent to be from legitimate medical procedures. Someone was medicating Eleanor Peterson without documentation. Someone wanted to discredit a civil rights lawyer by turning her into a racist caricature. But why now after all these years? Sarah made two decisions. First, she would save her patient's life. Then she would uncover the truth about room 410. Eleanor's eyes locked onto Sarah's. They said nobody would believe a racist old white woman, she whispered. That's why they chose me. Then her heart monitor flatlined. Code blue, Sarah shouted, reaching for the crash cart. As she fought to save Eleanor's life, one thought burned in her mind. This was more than a medical emergency. This was the beginning of a deadly conspiracy. And Sarah Johnson had just become its biggest threat. What secrets did room 410 hold? Who would go to such lengths to destroy a civil rights hero's legacy? And how many others had been silenced before Eleanor? The truth was about to unravel, and nothing could prepare them for what came next. The heart monitor's steady beep filled room 204. Eleanor Peterson lived, but at what cost? Sarah watched her unconscious patient, the woman's earlier words echoing. They chose me because nobody would believe a racist old white woman. 3 floors up, Director Matthews slammed his phone down. Senator, it's handled. The patient is stable but sedated. No, she hasn't said anything else about room 410. Karen Peterson sat beside her mother's bed, clutching a worn leather bag. I brought some of Mom's old photos. Maybe they'll help us understand. Her hands trembled as she pulled out a yellowed envelope. Sarah gasped. The photograph showed a younger Eleanor, arm in arm with civil rights leaders outside the Supreme Court. Her smile radiated pride and purpose. This was Mom's biggest case, Karen explained. She fought to desegregate St. Mary's Hospital in '76. Won it too. She paused, frowning. Strange that she mentioned room 410. That's where it all started. What happened there? Nobody knows. The records were sealed. Mom never talked about it. Karen dug deeper into the bag. But look at this. A newspaper clipping fell out. Mysterious death at St. Mary's. Room 410 claims another victim. Sarah's phone buzzed. A text from Linda at reception. Girl, you won't believe what I found. Eleanor Peterson was admitted to 3 hospitals last month. Same symptoms, same racist outbursts. Then she'd vanish before anyone could investigate. The room's door clicked open. Dr. Rivera, Eleanor's attending physician, entered with a concerned look. Sarah, her blood work came back. These levels, they're impossible. Sarah studied the results. These drugs, they're experimental. Who prescribed these? That's just it. Dr. Rivera lowered his voice. They're not in any official records. Someone's been medicating her off the books. A groan from the bed interrupted them. Eleanor's eyes fluttered open, clearer than before. Mom? Karen leaned forward. Karen. Eleanor's voice was different, stronger, lucid. Where am I? The last thing I remember. Oh God, room 410. They found out I was going to talk. Sarah pressed the emergency call button, but nothing happened. The room's power flickered. Mrs. Peterson, Sarah spoke urgently. What happened in room 410? Bodies, Eleanor whispered. So many bodies. They said it was natural causes, but I found the files. Black patients, poor patients, all dead within hours of admission. The hospital board, the senator, they were selecting who lived and who died. The lights went out completely. Karen, Eleanor grabbed her daughter's hand. The proof is in my old office, behind the Martin Luther King photo. Get it before they... The backup generator hummed to life, but something was wrong. Eleanor's eyes glazed over, that familiar hatred returning. Get away from me, you black witch, she shrieked at Sarah. Dr. Rivera rushed to check Eleanor's IV. Someone's accessed her line. Look, a fresh needle mark, still bleeding. Sarah ran to the door, catching a glimpse of a white coat disappearing around the corner. She sprinted after it, but the figure vanished into the stairwell. Back in the room, Karen pulled out her phone. I'm calling the police. No! Sarah stopped her. Think about it. 3 hospitals, senator's involvement, someone on the inside with medical access. The police might be compromised too. Then what do we do? Sarah thought fast. Your mother's office. Can you get there now? Yes, but go. Find whatever's behind that photo. I'll protect your mother. Karen hesitated, then nodded. Be careful. If what Mom said is true, these people have been killing to keep this secret for decades. As Karen left, Sarah noticed a small video camera in the corner of the room. Its red light blinked steadily, watching. Eleanor thrashed in her bed, alternating between racial slurs and broken sobs. Sarah checked her pupils, dilated. Whatever drug they'd given her was taking full effect. Dr. Rivera studied the heart monitor. Sarah, these patterns, I've seen them before. Last year, when that civil rights attorney died in our care, everyone said it was dementia, but they silenced him too, Sarah finished. Her phone buzzed again. A text from an unknown number. Room 410 stays buried. Walk away or you'll be buried too. Buried. Sarah looked at Eleanor, the woman trapped between truth and lies, between justice and hate. In 12 hours, she'd gone from respected nurse to someone who knew too much. The heart monitor's beep grew erratic. Eleanor's eyes found Sarah's one last time. The basement files, she gasped. December 1976. Find Maria Rodriguez. Then her eyes rolled back, leaving Sarah with a name, a date, and a growing certainty that she was in way over her head. But if Room 410 had claimed lives for decades, how many more would it take before someone stopped it? Maria Rodriguez. December 1976. The truth was down there, buried in basement files, and Sarah Johnson was going hunting. The basement archives smelled like secrets, musty papers, and forgotten truths. Sarah's flashlight beam cut through darkness, illuminating rows of filing cabinets. Somewhere in this maze lay the truth about Maria Rodriguez. Her phone vibrated. Karen. Sarah, I'm at Mom's office. The MLK photo's gone. Someone got here first. A door slammed upstairs. Footsteps echoed. Hide your phone. I'll call back, Sarah whispered, killing her flashlight. The footsteps grew closer. Sarah slipped behind a cabinet, heart pounding. Two voices drifted down. The daughter's at the office. Is it cleaned out? Everything's gone. What about the nurse? She's down here. Don't let her leave with anything. Sarah's hand brushed a cabinet drawer. Rodriguez M. Her fingers trembled as she eased it open. The file was thin. One page. December 15th, 1976. Patient expired. Room 410. Cause unknown. A photo slipped out. A young Latina woman, heavily pregnant, smiling at the camera. Written on the back, Maria Rodriguez. Last photo before admission. They said they'd save my baby. Eleanor Peterson, attorney. The footsteps reached the basement door. Sarah snapped a photo of the file with her phone. Check every row, a voice commanded. Sarah crouched lower, clutching the evidence. A beam of light swept past. Her phone lit up. Doctor. Rivera's text. Eleanor coding again. They're moving her to room 410. The same room. After all these years. Sarah's mind raced. Maria Rodriguez died in room 410. Eleanor's client. A pregnant woman promised help. The pieces clicked. St. Mary's wasn't just segregated in 1976. It was conducting experiments. Poor women, minority women, their babies. Over there! A flashlight beam caught her. Sarah ran, ducking between cabinets. A crash behind her. They were knocking files over, destroying evidence. She burst through the emergency exit, alarms blaring. Her phone rang. Karen. Sarah, I found a backup file at Mom's house. They were sterilizing women in room 410. Hundreds of them. Mom discovered it, threatened to expose them. That's when they started drugging her, Sarah finished, making her sound crazy, racist. Who'd believe her claims then? There's more. The current hospital board, they're all children of the original doctors. They're still covering up their parents' crimes. Sarah ran toward the elevator. Eleanor needed her. The doors opened. Director Matthews stood inside, a syringe in hand. Nurse Johnson, always so dedicated. His smile didn't reach his eyes. Did you know my father ran this hospital in 1976? Such a difficult time. Integration causing chaos. Some felt population control was necessary for the greater good. You mean genocide? My father made hard choices. I won't let you destroy his legacy. Sarah backed away. By turning Eleanor Peterson into a racist? Making her destroy her own reputation? Elegant, isn't it? The drugs trigger rage, specifically racial hatred. Who'd believe a racist's claims about minority women being sterilized? She discredits herself. The elevator dinged. Dr. Rivera emerged, security behind him. Sarah, he shouted. Eleanor's awake. She's named names. It's over. Matthews lunged with the syringe. Sarah dodged. Police swarmed in. Karen had brought them. Real federal agents, not local cops. Director Matthews, an agent announced, you're under arrest for conspiracy, attempted murder, and civil rights violations. Sarah ran to room 410. Eleanor sat up in bed, clear-eyed. Maria Rodriguez was my client, she said. They promised to save her baby if she kept quiet about the sterilizations. She refused. They killed her. Tears fell. I've carried that guilt for decades. Karen hugged her mother. It wasn't your fault. No, Sarah agreed. But now we can tell her story. All their stories. Eleanor gripped Sarah's hand. Why did you believe in me? Even when I said those horrible things? Because hate's not natural. It's taught, or in your case, injected. But humanity? That's who we really are. Reporters gathered outside. The truth about room 410 would finally be told. Sarah looked at the door's number plate. Tomorrow she'd petition to rename it the Maria Rodriguez Memorial Wing. Some secrets stay buried for years, hidden behind racism, power, and fear. But truth has a way of rising, one brave voice at a time, even if that voice sometimes needs a nurse to help it speak. Federal agents swarmed the hospital corridors, but Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Matthew's smirk during his arrest haunted her. He'd given up too easily. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. You found one secret? Dig deeper. Not all victims were in room 410. Eleanor's medical records sprawled across Sarah's desk. 47 women, all minority or poor, all sent to room 410 between 1975 to 1977. But the numbers didn't add up. Sarah! Dr. Rivera rushed in. You need to see this. He held up an old blueprint. The hospital underwent renovations in 77. Room 410 wasn't always room 410. Sarah's blood ran cold. What do you mean? They changed the numbers. There were other rooms, other victims. They just erased them. Karen burst through the door, face pale. Mom's missing. The monitors had shown Eleanor sleeping peacefully. The bed now lay empty, sheets disturbed. A nurse's badge lay on the floor. Linda's. She helped them, Sarah realized. That's how they accessed Eleanor's IV. Security footage showed Linda wheeling Eleanor toward the old wing, a section marked for demolition next week. Sarah's phone rang, Linda herself. Sorry, honey, but some secrets are worth killing for. You have 1 hour to surrender the Rodriguez file, or Eleanor joins the ghosts of Ward X. Ward 10? Sarah mouthed to Dr. Rivera. His eyes widened. The psychiatric ward. Before integration, they admitted perfectly sane black women, declared them mentally unfit, then experimented on them, Karen finished. Sarah checked her phone's photo of Maria's file, a detail she'd missed. Ward 10 transfer papers, signed by Dr. Matthews Sr. The current board members, Sarah began, aren't just covering for their parents, Karen said. They're continuing their work. Different methods. Same goal. Sarah's phone buzzed again. 50 minutes. Tick-tock. They ran to the old wing. Darkness greeted them, broken only by emergency lights. Split up, Sarah commanded. But be careful. Linda's not working alone. Sarah took the east corridor. Paint peeled from walls that had seen too much suffering. A sound echoed. Wheels squeaking. She followed it to a heavy door marked Ward 10 Psychiatric Treatment. Inside, Eleanor lay strapped to a bed. Linda stood nearby, syringe ready. Right on time, Linda smiled. But not alone, I bet. Footsteps behind Sarah. She turned to find Director Matthews, very much not in custody. Those weren't real federal agents, he explained. Amazing what money can buy, isn't it? Why continue this? The evidence is out, Matthews laughed. Evidence? Of what? A senile racist's rants? A few missing files? We own judges, cops, journalists. We've had 40 years to perfect this system. The system of killing women who don't fit your ideal America? Population management, Linda corrected. These women breed too many undesirables. Like me? Sarah's voice dripped contempt. Exactly, Matthew stepped closer. But you're different, smart, educated. Join us. Help us. Modernize the program. Sarah noticed Eleanor's hand moving slightly. The drugs were wearing off. And if I refuse, then you're just another unstable minority nurse who snapped, attacked poor Mrs. Peterson. Had to be subdued. A noise at the door. Dr. Rivera and Karen, phones recording everything. Got it all, Sarah, Karen smiled. Live streaming to every news outlet in the state. Matthews lunged for the phones. Eleanor burst free, years of civil rights fighting experience showing as she tackled Linda. The syringe flew, clattering away. Real police flooded in. The actual federal agents had been watching, gathering evidence of the fake arrest. A confession and a rescue, the lead agent smiled. Not bad for one night. Later, Sarah sat with Eleanor in a real hospital room. Ward 10, Eleanor sighed. I suspected, but could never prove it. Now everyone knows, Sarah assured her. But we're not done, Eleanor's eyes blazed. Other hospitals had their own room, 410S, their own Ward X's. Sarah squeezed her hand. Then we'll find them, all of them. Outside, reporters clamored for statements. Inside, two women from different generations, different races, shared a smile. Some called it a conspiracy, others a hate crime. But for Sarah Johnson, it was simply justice, delivered by an unlikely pair who proved that truth, like hope, knows no color. Headlines screamed across every screen in the nurses' station. Hospital horror, decades of forced sterilization exposed. Sarah scrolled through her phone, watching 40 years of secrets unravel in real time. You should be proud, Eleanor said from her wheelchair. Not many would have risked everything for the truth. But Sarah frowned at her latest email. Something's wrong. Other hospitals are denying similar claims too quickly, like they were ready for this. Because they were, Dr. Rivera rushed in, waving papers. Look at these transfer records. Every time a woman questioned procedures at one hospital, she'd be sent to another. A network. Karen burst through the door. Mom, Sarah, turn on the news, now. The TV flickered. Director Matthews stood outside the courthouse, somehow released on bail. His smile chilled Sarah's blood. These allegations are absurd, he announced. This is a coordinated attack on our healthcare system by radical activists, and we have proof. The camera panned to Linda, now playing victim. They threatened me, forced me to make those recordings. Sarah Johnson is dangerous, unstable. A classic tactic, Eleanor whispered. Discredit the whistleblower. Sarah's phone buzzed with notifications. Her nursing license, suspended pending investigation. Her bank accounts, frozen. Her apartment, police were there now. Finding planted evidence. They're destroying you, Karen gasped. No, Sarah stood. They're proving we're close. Think about it. Why go nuclear unless we've hit something huge? Dr. Rivera's computer beeped. Got into Matthew's encrypted emails. My God, it's not just hospitals, insurance companies, pharmaceutical giants, government officials. They're all connected. A eugenics program, Eleanor's voice shook. Hidden in plain sight. Sarah's phone rang, her lawyer. More charges filed, her face plastered across media. Radical nurses' reign of terror. We need to go public, Karen suggested. Tell your side. They control the narrative, Eleanor warned. We need something they can't spin. Sarah stared at Matthews on TV, his confident smirk. Then she noticed something. His tie clip, an unusual symbol. Dr. Rivera, check his father's medical school records. That symbol ... Rivera typed frantically. Got it. A secret society, Medical Preservation League. Members pledged to... Oh God. What? Preserve racial purity through medical intervention. Every major hospital had members. Still does. Sarah's hands shook. How deep does this go? Deeper than we imagined, Eleanor wheeled to the window. But they made one mistake. What's that? They thought fear would stop us. Instead, Eleanor gripped Sarah's hand. It just proved we're winning. Sarah's phone lit up. Messages poured in. Nurses, doctors, patients, all sharing similar stories, all ready to talk. They can destroy one voice, Sarah smiled, but not thousands. The hospital intercom crackled. Security to all floors. Detain Sarah Johnson immediately. Go, Eleanor urged. I'll handle the press. I'm not leaving you. You're not. You're gathering reinforcements, every victim, every witness. It's time to burn their whole system down. Karen grabbed her keys. I know where to hide you. Dr. Rivera downloaded the files. I'll keep digging. They can't cyber silence all of us. Sarah looked at her patient-turned-ally. The woman they'd tried to paint as a racist was now her strongest defender. Eleanor, go. Make them remember why they feared us in the first place. Footsteps thundered down the hall. Sarah ran, clutching the evidence that would shake American healthcare to its core. Behind her, Eleanor faced the cameras, ready to tell the world about Room 410 again. Sometimes breaking points aren't about breaking down. They're about breaking free. 3 days underground. Sarah watched from Karen's basement as her face flashed across news channels. Medical terrorists still at large. Below, smaller headlines. Mysterious deaths at 5 major hospitals. Medical Preservation League, myth or menace? Her phone, now burner clean, buzzed. Dr. Rivera. Eleanor's testimony went viral. 50 more witnesses came forward. They're calling it the 410 movement. A second message. Unknown number. Meet me at St. Agnes Cemetery. Midnight. Bring the Rodriguez file. M. It's a trap, Karen warned. Maybe, Sarah studied the text. Or maybe. The cemetery gates creaked. Moonlight cast shadows across ancient headstones. A figure stood by a fresh grave, Maria Rodriguez's sister. I've waited decades to tell someone, Maria's sister whispered. That night in room 410, Maria wasn't the only one who died. She handed Sarah a diary. Maria kept records, names, dates, procedures. She knew they'd kill her, made me promise to hide this until someone brave enough came along. Sarah's hands trembled opening it. Hundreds of names, procedures coded in medical shorthand, staff initials. Her phone lit up. Dr. Rivera again. Matthews just announced emergency protocols at 6 hospitals. They're destroying records. Too late, Sarah smiled, photographing the diary. We have their playbook. Headlights swept the cemetery, cars approaching. Run, Maria's sister urged. I'll delay them. Sarah raced through monuments. Bullets pinged stone. A hand grabbed her arm. Eleanor. Karen got me out, Eleanor explained, pulling Sarah into a waiting car. The whole board's been activated. They're not just hiding evidence now. They're eliminating witnesses. Sarah's phone exploded with messages. Nurses nationwide reporting suspicious deaths. Patient records vanishing. Board members fleeing. It's happening again, Eleanor gripped the diary. Just like 76. But this time we have proof. Sarah opened her laptop, connected to Dr. Rivera's secure server. And something else. She pulled up Matthew's emails. Look at the patient codes. Match them to Maria's diary. Eleanor gasped. The same system. After all these years. Because it never stopped, Sarah typed furiously. The Medical Preservation League just went digital. Every suspicious transfer, every complicated pregnancy, every mental health admission. All coded. Police sirens wailed behind them. They're not really police, Eleanor warned. Karen swerved down alleys. Where to? Sarah's phone buzzed. Dr. Rivera. Got into their cloud server, downloading everything, but the text cut off. Rivera? Sarah called. No answer. They reached the hospital's back entrance. Dark figures converged. They're everywhere, Karen whispered. Sarah looked at her phone. 1 bar of signal left. Sometimes, she said, the only way to kill a secret. She hit send. Maria's diary, Matthew's emails, 40 years of coded records, all uploading to every news outlet, medical board, and federal agency in the country, is to tell everyone. Eleanor squeezed her hand. Together? Sarah nodded. They stepped out of the car, into the light. Because sometimes the darkest secrets hide in the brightest places, and sometimes the greatest courage isn't in fighting the darkness. It's in surviving long enough to expose it to the light. The real awakening wasn't just about room 410 anymore. It was about every room, in every hospital, where profit and prejudice had replaced the promise to heal. The truth was awake now, and no amount of money or power could put it back to sleep. The world watched as America's biggest medical scandal unfolded. 410 papers exposed nationwide eugenics program. Sarah's evidence sparked investigations at 38 hospitals. Each day brought new revelations, new horrors, new survivors stepping forward. The tip of the iceberg, Eleanor testified before Congress. Every minority woman who died mysteriously, every failed pregnancy, every mental health commitment, they weren't accidents. They were targets. From her safe house, Sarah coordinated with whistleblowers. Dr. Rivera, recovered from his accident, managed their secure network. Karen, now heading a victims advocacy group, fielded thousands of calls. Matthews was spotted in Switzerland, Rivera reported. Interpol's closing in. Sarah's phone lit up. Linda wanted to talk. Why should we trust you? Eleanor asked. Because, Linda's voice shook. I was almost a victim too. 1982, room 410. They said my baby had complications. I chose to help them to save myself. The revelation hit hard. Victims becoming perpetrators, survival twisted into compliance. Sarah checked hospital records. Linda's story checked out. We need every voice, every perspective. But darker forces were rallying. Medical stocks plummeted. Insurance companies lobbied Congress. Media outlets shifted narratives. Healthcare crisis threatens nation. They're trying to make this about money, Karen warned. Then we make it about Maria, Sarah decided. She uploaded the diary entries. Every victim's story, every forced procedure, every covered-up death, flooding social media. Room 410 trended worldwide. Eleanor's phone rang. The Attorney General. We've frozen the league's assets. $3 billion hidden offshore, all from special procedures. Justice moved swiftly. Medical board investigations, license revocations, criminal charges. But healing, that proved harder. Sarah visited the new memorial wall, thousands of names, each representing a life altered or ended by medical racism. My sister would be proud, Maria's sister touched the wall, but the fight's not over. She was right. Other countries reported similar programs. More conspiracies surfaced. We've created something bigger than Room 410, Eleanor realized. A movement. Sarah's phone buzzed constantly. Nurses reporting suspicious practices, patients sharing stories, medical students exposing biased teachings. The old system was crumbling. Linda turned state's evidence. Her testimony implicated judges, politicians, pharmaceutical executives. They called it population management, she revealed, but it was genocide in a white coat. Matthews was caught trying to flee to a non-extradition country. His encrypted files proved devastating, Sarah testified last. Not as a whistleblower or a nurse, but as a symbol. Healthcare should heal, not harm, serve, not select. Every Room 410 destroyed lives based on race, class, and privilege. That stops now. Congress passed the Medical Justice Act, new oversight boards, mandatory bias training, independent investigations. Eleanor and Sarah established the Rodriguez Foundation, helping victims and training medical professionals to recognize discrimination. We can't change the past, Sarah told graduating nurses, but we can guard the future. The story made history books. The 410 conspiracy became synonymous with medical racism. But in hospitals nationwide, quiet changes meant more. New policies, diverse staff, patient advocates, and in every medical facility, a plaque now reads, "First, do no harm to anyone ever." Because true healing isn't just about medicine, It's about acknowledging past wounds, fighting present battles, and ensuring future justice. Room 4, 10's legacy transformed from horror to hope. One truth, one voice, one patient at a time. 1 year later, Sarah Johnson stood in a renovated Room 410, now the Hope and Healing Center for Medical Justice. Ready? Eleanor wheeled in, looking stronger than ever. Sarah nodded, adjusting her new badge. Chief of Patient Advocacy. Their documentary series, The 410 Truth, had exposed medical racism nationwide. But today marks something special. Maria Rodriguez's daughter, the baby everyone thought had died, walked through the door. She'd survived, hidden by a brave nurse, grown up to become a doctor herself. Mom never got justice, she said, hugging Sarah, but her story changed everything. The hospital corridors, once dark with secrets, now echoed with diverse voices, shared stories, and real healing. Eleanor smiled at Sarah. From a racist encounter to a revolution. Who would have thought? Sometimes, Sarah replied, the biggest changes start with one small moment of truth. As they walked the halls together, a black nurse, a reformed white lawyer, and the daughter of their first case, the world watched and learned. Don't forget to like, share, and hit that notification bell, because some truths need to be heard and some stories need to be told. Remember, your voice matters, your story counts. Together, we can transform healthcare for everyone.